No check. Kevin didn't slip up on things like that. She scanned the page inside, thick with type, waiting for the meaning to jump out at her. It did not. She had to read it 3 times, her eyes all of a sudden wild to speed ahead, faster than her mind could follow, before she understood that she owed the IRS $101,961. Impossible. Mackie knew there were lots of people who didn't fear the IRS, but she wasn't one of them. She always made sure that Mr. Fertig had the 2 returns, their joint personal and the Buena Vita Development Company corporate, ready a month before filing date. It had to be a mistake. Her mind knew that, but the signal didn't get passed along to her hands, too unsteady to fold the letter and stick it back in the envelope. She walked back toward her front door, the 9 houses of Buena Vita Estates fanning out around her, the canyon rising into the foothills beyond them, the mountains standing in the middle distance, cloudless sky above. Mountains on all sides, the first thing she'd noticed when they'd moved here, back when Kevin was still teaching tennis and Buena Vita Estates wasn't even a dream, at least not in her mind. Mountains the first thing and still the best, the air a close second. She'd hiked in those mountains now, even in the heat of summer, learned a bit about them. They weren't as green as they appeared from down here in the foothills, for example. Green came from the accumulated effect of the saguaros, like pixels, individually invisible at this distance, living up high at their own slow pace, blind to the million-dollar views of the city down below. Hiking up there, it was impossible, at least for Mackie, not to feel them doing something like thinking. Only recently was she starting to understand what was on whatever they had for minds. Nothing human can make a lasting impression in this landscape. Mackie went inside. Lianne was in the kitchen, hanging up the phone. That meant they still had service, and the last check had cleared. This immediate reaction, another one of those new things, not good. "Morning, hon," Mackie said. "Hi, Mom," said Lianne. Who was on the phone? Mackie kept that remark, a mother's natural remark, inside. Teenagers needed space, but she couldn't help being curious because Lianne didn't have many friends. No fault of her own. She was a great kid. Going over all the good things about Lianne in her mind was one of Mackie's secret pleasures. But there'd been so many changes. First the move from back east, Lianne in the middle of 6th grade at the time. Then a few years later, when the development got going and the bank loans came through, they'd put her in a private school, which was what everybody did, the kind of everybody they'd been getting to know. Now she went to Kolb High. "Straight off the tree," said Mackie, handing Lianne a tangerine. "Thanks." Lianne loved them. They ate the tangerines, sweet, juicy, perfect. True luxury. $850 divided by 2. "That was Dad," Lianne said. "Oh?" "He's on his way over." Saturday was Kevin's day with Lianne. That was the agreement. But he hadn't shown up the past 3 Saturdays. Hadn't even bothered to call. "What's the plan?" Mackie said. Lianne shrugged. She was tearing the tangerine rind into tiny pieces. "You don't have to go," Mackie thought. But unfair to say. A girl needs a father. She said, "Better get ready." Lianne rose, pushed herself up from the table, really, like a 9-to-5er off to work. Maybe divorce was like that for kids, an adult job suddenly handed to them, a hard one, sometimes a backbreaker. Lianne was still in the shower when Kevin knocked on the front door. Mackie knew that knock. 3 taps, very quick, almost urgent. She knew every little thing about him. The big things were where she'd slipped up. Mackie opened the door. "Oh, hi," he said, as though this were some nice surprise. "Lianne all set?" "Not quite," Mackie said, moving aside. He came in, glancing at the mops and brooms by the door, went into the kitchen. Mackie checked his car out in the street before closing the door, in case he somehow had a new one, which would mean another big slip-up on her part. But it was the same car he'd been driving since a week or 2 after the bank shut them down. Yes, a BMW, and, yes, a convertible. But this one was 20 years old, and no graduate of the Yale School of Architecture waiting in the passenger seat, tapping her sun-tanned foot. Kevin was leaning against the counter. Mackie sometimes still forgot how good-looking